Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and we are approaching crunch time here in the CDL for 2021. About halfway through the season now, Stage 3 is certainly well underway, and a lot of these teams have a lot of pressure on them to make sure they qualify for the World Championship in August, getting top 8 in the season standings. One of the teams that certainly is not there right now is the Seattle Surge. Given the fact that they haven't made a roster change so far, a lot of pros have been suggesting these last few days really that some change needs to happen. Enjoy taking your thoughts in the comment section below. Like you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Of course, they did not have the greatest week to kick off their Stage 3 campaign, getting reverse swept by the Los Angeles Thieves on the first day of action, and then later in the weekend, actually getting beaten by, well, OpTic Chicago in a 3-0 fashion, as they've lost to OpTic quite a lot as of late. And despite so much noted improvements really from the Seattle Surge, from Stage 1 to Stage 2 especially, they still didn't have the greatest result at the Stage 2 major, and then they come into Stage 3 starting off 0-2, and already their Stage 3 campaign is basically at an end, because it's going to be nigh on impossible for them to get out into the winners bracket given such a stacked group as we will look at, and then, the major, they're obviously going to have a difficult time as well. So, given the fact that every team in the league has made a change, apart from OpTic Chicago, Atlanta FaZe, and the Seattle Surge, a lot of people are thinking, well, the time is nigh, really, for Seattle Surge to go down a similar route. Octane wasn't too happy with their result up against, Los Angeles Thieves the other day, when they did get reverse swept in that matchup, and as you can see in the point standings right now, despite Surge improving so much, and we talked about a lot during Stage 2, the fact that, okay, Gunless is looking way better, Prestinni's looking way better, they still sit down here at effectively 11th place, joint 10th place in the league right now to the Paris Legion. The only team behind them is the Royal Ravens, and you see they're like, they're 30 points or so away from getting into that top 8, which isn't going to be so easy to do. Like, picking up 30 points in this league is pretty tough when the competition is as heavy as it is right now, and when we look at it from their group perspective right now so far in Stage 3, they sit here down 0-2 with the Royal Ravens, and I mean, look, OpTic are 2-0, Thieves are 2-0, Subliners are 1-0, FaZe, you expect them to have a bounce back couple of weeks, I'm sure, as well. So, you're really looking at Surge and thinking there's basically no chance they get top 3 in this group, given the results that they've had so far, and certainly, they've got a tough time over the next couple of weeks as well. These are the matchups coming up this week. So the Paris home series, they play up against the Subliners on Saturday, and then the week after that is technically the Dallas home series. They play FaZe and the Ravens. They've still got Subliners, they've still got FaZe to come. That is not going to be easy for them by any means. And as Octane says a few days ago, close but no cigar, same story all year. It feels like some other reactions from the other guys on the team. Prestinni, the regain is tough with this one, and Prestinni's been looking so good since me. If we'll look at the stats in just a few minutes time here for what this team is looking like, but a lot of players are talking about Loony, right? And understandably so. He's at least statistically been the weakest member of the team, and in this new 4 versus 4 era that we go into now, back from Modern Warfare, it was 5v5 last time round, can you necessarily afford to have a player dropping like a 0.85 or 0.9 on a regular basis? I'm not necessarily sure you can, because back in World War II, Loony was actually a very solid player. He wouldn't put up, well, 0.85s, 0.9s, he'd actually quite often put up 1.0s, 0.95 to 1.0, something along those lines, when he was teaming with Gunless on Rise Nation. Of course, also had TJ and Slasher on that team methods for a time earlier in the season at CDL Atlanta as well. So that team was very strong. That's when Loony certainly had his best year as a competitor, winning 3 events on that Rise Nation team. And his history and success with Gunless there certainly helps land in the spot on the Seattle Surge team this season. And honestly, I think he's kind of a crucial component to the chemistry on this team. We haven't seen really any friction so far with the chemistry on this lineup, whereas this time last year with Gunless, I'm pretty sure he was already off the Huntsman by this time, and in previous seasons, we've seen similar things as well. So Loony kind of seems to be the key to keeping Gunless in a good headspace, and maybe the same with Octane in the sense that Loony has history with Octane as well, winning championships with him on Rise Nation way back in the day, also in Black Ops 3 now, so definitely some history between those players, and that is really the question mark to me, the fact that, okay, Loony might not statistically be doing the best right now, but if you do cut him, do you then run the risk of other issues coming up within the team? But at the same time, can you afford to have that level of slaying on your team, given the rest of the guys have been playing relatively well, and maybe that is just, well, they need a step up in terms of the slaying category to actually get them over the line in some of these key series, which may well be the difference maker for them, as Gunless says, I gotta be better. GG's OpTic lost 3-0, but Gunless honestly as of late has been playing it pretty damn well indeed. And there's always this discussion, right? And Octane says a few days ago, there's nothing in life more powerful than a honeymoon period in Call of Duty, and some people looking at this tweet and suggesting, well, Octane, maybe it is time for you guys to make a change and actually take advantage of this honeymoon period. Because if Loony was to get benched off this team, it wouldn't be the most shocking change in the world. There's been far more shocking changes that have happened so far this season. I mean, Slasher being the main one. I mean, Huke, of course, as of recent, probably taking that crown away from Slasher has been the most surprising change so far this season. A lot of people suggesting, look, Octane, it may be the time to actually make some sort of move right here. And of course, this is is their lineup right now, and making a move isn't so easy with this team. We'll have a look at the stats in a second after we look at some of what the pros have to say on the matter. But as you can see, Seattle Surge, they don't have a substitute signed, as they did last season. I mean, last season they had Proto and Panda, and clearly the organization did not want to splash out a lot of cash at all to try and make that roster any better. I'm pretty sure that, like, they were told, I think Slack Ted on Flag recently as well, the fact that basically they were told that, like, look, we don't have any money to spend. This whole pandemic situation's hitting us pretty hard. You know, you're just gonna have to figure it out with the team for the rest of the season. Unlucky lads, we're not spending any more money to get anyone new into the team. Now, you know, Seattle seem to have gone down a similar route this season where they haven't even signed a proper substitute. They just have effectively Nubsy as technically signed as their sub. So they would have to find some other arrangement with another team for like some sort of trade situation, some sort of buyout situation, or getting one of the amateur players. But the problem is with that a lot of the top amateur players have already been snapped up by these other teams. And the pros were kind of discussing the matter, right? As we can see, Gunless here talking about something, yeah, can't wait to team with these fine gentlemen. And Loony, in a sense, we did talk about at the time, maybe kind of the glue to this team actually sticking together and the chemistry not completely deteriorating as it has done with teams with these players in the past. But some players don't necessarily think that Loony actually has that big of an impact on this team. Zuma's talking about right here, and I'll share a couple of clips in a second here for, well, what they're talking about, the fact that Loony, look, you just need greater numbers out of this guy. And Zuma's kind of saying that this whole idea of, okay, you've got the in-game leader that kind of does the communication and calls the strats and this type of stuff in Call of Duty nowadays is actually not super valuable in terms of that sense. So really, you just need someone to slay out big time. That's really what the top players have. If they do have an IGL, it's someone who can also slay out massive.
I don't always defend Loony. I just, you know, he brings other intangibles to a team. Now, I see people talking about IGLing a lot, like Loony's the IGL. Ben, I'm going to be honest with you. I think IGL in-game is fugazi. I'm going to say it now. I think an IGL in COD is fugazi. I think it's fugazi. But you guys don't understand. I'm not saying an IGL means nothing. I'm saying it's overrated. It's fugazi. Sometimes people talk about IGL like, it doesn't matter if this guy's dropping a 0.7. He's the IGL. You know what I'm saying? He's the brains behind it all. That's not how it is. Guys, you have teams like FaZe and Dallas and New York and OpTic and all these teams at the top with non-stop talent from top to bottom. You need all four players calling out. You need all four players calling strats. You need everybody small talking, working off each other. Like, I don't want to hear no bullshit about IGL. I don't. There's too much talent in the league now. People are losing spots. The competition is at a whole nother level. There's only 12 teams. You want the best of the best if you want to win.
So let's look at some of the statistics then from so far this season. This is over at breakingpoint.gg, the team stats, if you guys would like to check it out in your own time. And you can actually filter here by the stages. So if you go to the matches and you hold down control and you click through all of them, you can just select a stage to have a look what was happening in that stage. And you can see for stage 1, they didn't have the greatest stage by any means. I mean, the only team they beat was London, and Prestinni was the one with a 0.85. And this is where I believe he was in a difficult internet situation. He was playing on a very high ping. Loony has a 0.96. This, of course, is in hard points. In control, it really wasn't pretty for these guys, and Search and Destroy, relatively similar story as well. So, you know, Octane and Gunless played relatively well in stage 1, given the fact that they got absolutely bodied this stage. But then we go into stage 2, and we see a very different story. They looked a lot better. I mean, you can see the teams they're losing to. They lost to Chicago twice, they lost to Dallas once, they lost to Minnesota once. They beat every other team they played that stage, even though it was only Florida twice and the Paris Legion. But this stage, Prestinni has a 1.13 in hard, 0.9 in Search, 0.93 in control, but so much better improved in the respawn, certainly was Prestinni. Gunless had a monster stage as well. Octane really holding his own, and Loony sitting here at a 0.85. And they don't have the greatest stage 2, but stage 3 is where they really need to kick on and, well, show they've improved quite a lot. And this is where they really come out swinging and prove that this team can be a long-term force for this team, because many teams so far this season have made changes with them, well, having a much better situations really than Seattle Surge are, given their second bottom of the league right now, and, well, don't really look like they're going to be winning championships anytime soon with this lineup. And these are their performances so far in stage 3. You've got Loony at a 0.86, Prestinni with a 1.05, Octane with a 1.18, Gunless with a 1.05, at least this is in the hard points. Of course, well, a smaller map today, only 3 maps in hard point, 3 maps in Surge, 2 maps in control, so not too much to read into it necessarily. But at the end of the day, the pattern is relatively clear. Loony's been dropping a 0.85-ish for the last couple of stages, and can that necessarily cut it against some of the best teams in the world? You're looking at the real top dogs. There's really no one on their team. I mean, I guess you could look at Arcitys, honestly, on Atlanta FaZe. He's been pretty average so far this season, but the thing is with Arcitys, you've got Cellium, aBeZy, and Simp on your team also, and your record so far this season in terms of series count is 14-3. So probably there isn't too much to look at our season and say, okay, this guy's awful, this guy's underperforming, whatever, because at the end of the day, they're still dominating. Then obviously there is a reason for that. And RC's KD is still, I think, around the 1.0 mark, 0.98, something along those lines. So a 0.85 for Loony. Honestly, coming into the season, would you have expected too much different for this? Would you have expected a couple of months into the season us to be talking about this change? I would not have been surprised at all. And I think a lot of teams have made lineup changes so far this season along similar lines. And one thing I noticed as well is look at the engagements per 10 minute, right? Of course, this is so far in stage 3, but Loony with like 17 kills per 10 minutes compared to 23, 25. Engagements per 10 minutes also relatively low. So not only is the KD not looking too hot, but in terms of engagements, it's also not like he's flying out there and getting a load of kills on the map or getting a load of kills and deaths that then get traded out as well. So for a number of reasons, I think that it is quite clear that Loony is the weak link in terms of the slaying on this team. And this is why it kind of surprised me in a way. This is the team they went for at the start of the season. It really felt like to me that at some point, something's going to have to switch up here and something's going to have to change. Prestinni's proved that he can hold his own, at least in terms of being a slaying SMG. But there's just so many other talented players in the league right now that it's tough for Loony to find his spot in this current iteration of the team. And will they decide to make a change? If they are going to make a change, I do imagine that's the one they probably will consider making. And as Slasher says, a bench team would do better than teams in the league, no cap at all. And this is what Corona CDL Intel comes up with some of the players that are on the bench right now. So of course there are also players in the amateur scene which potentially also could get their spot. But well, here are bench players build a roster with $10. So these are some of the ones you might consider. And of course, if Loony is going to be stepping out, you kind of need well, you don't necessarily need someone incredibly vocal, because Gunless actually has kind of been doing that job. I think all the guys on that team are relatively vocal, so I'm not really sure what you need in that sense. I mean, Loony definitely does a good job in that role. I think he's very smart. I think he's a very talented Call of Duty player. But right now, with the league as competitive as it is, and Seattle Surge not looking so good, and so many other teams making changes despite being much better than Seattle Surge, to be honest, over the course of the season, you've got to think that that is a change they are heavily considering right now. Of course, they need effectively another slaying SMG. Like, that would be my take. Gunless and Octane are great players. Prestinni's been obviously doing great, and you really need someone else in the SMG line to be putting up numbers and probably just putting up more pressure on the map to match Prestinni in the pace that he has. So, you know, Vivid could be a good idea. Huke, I'm not sure they're going to be able to get him off the Dallas Empire with any means at all. Simp could be someone to consider as well, but I'm not sure they necessarily think the chemistry with that might work too well. And Octane has been kind of skeptical in the past to pick up these young and up and coming players. We talked last season, or maybe in the off season, the fact that he effectively declined the opportunity to team with Shotzzy on the Dallas Empire last season because he wasn't sure that he was necessarily going to be anything special. So, you know, for these reasons, you've got to think maybe as someone a little bit more proven that comes in if they do decide to make a change. But maybe they will not make a change at all, or maybe they will just keep this lineup, because last season, clearly, those guys did not want to do anything, or at least the management over at the Seattle Surge did not want to make any particular changes with that lineup. Will the same thing happen again this season? Will they be stuck with this team for the rest of the season? If they are, in my opinion, they're not going to be able to make it to the World Championship, and we won't see these guys there. So if Seattle really want to win and really want to switch things up, I think that is certainly something that they have to consider right now. But I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the YouTube algorithm. Know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and it'll grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.